Howdy folks, hope you had a good weekend and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. We didn't actually have a World of Warships video last week, did we? Don't worry. Hopefully we're going to make up for that today. This is Ark Yagami in one of the two Japanese tier... Actually no, it is the only Japanese tier 9 destroyer because the gunboat Japanese destroyer line only goes up to tier 8, doesn't it? Silly me, nearly had a bit of a Jingles moment there, didn't I? Don't worry, I'm sure I'll make up for it at some point during the course of this video. So, Ark Yagami in the Yugumo, Japanese tier 9 destroyer. So, the Yugumo. I haven't actually unlocked this yet, I'm still at tier 8 with the Kagero, and I have to admit that on paper I'm looking at the Yugumo and I'm thinking, well, I've not really seen an awful lot to get excited about. They don't, at least at first, appear to be that many differences between the Yugumo and the Kagero, and yet people that I have spoken to who have unlocked and who do play this ship absolutely love it. Why is that, if there are so few differences between this tier 9 destroyer and the tier 8 destroyer that precedes it? And there aren't actually that many differences, but the differences that there are fairly significant. And quite unusual, because the Yugumo sits in the torpedo boat Japanese destroyer line, not the gunboat Japanese destroyer line, which ends at tier 8. And yet, while this is by no means a gunboat destroyer, it's certainly better at being a gunboat destroyer than any of the Japanese destroyers that you'll have played prior to getting your hands on this thing. Its guns have a 5.7 second reload. Now, okay, that noise you can hear in the background is the sound of all the American, German and Russian destroyer captains laughing their asses off at the idea of having to wait 5.7 seconds to fire their guns. But this is a big deal for a Japanese destroyer that isn't the Akizuki. The Kagero took just over 7 seconds to reload its guns. The Hatsuharu took 7.5 seconds to reload its guns. Japanese destroyer captains who've managed to get as far as the Yugumo at tier 9 and find that they only have to wait 5.7 seconds between shots are liable to need to find a nice shaded place to sit down, have a cool drink of water, mop their sweating brow, or they're liable to be overcome by the shock. And the good news doesn't end there. Once you've upgraded to the upgraded fire control, you can fire these guns every 5.7 seconds out to a range of, wait for it, 12 kilometers. And once again this news is greeted with a resounding so what from all of the Americans, Germans and Soviets. But again, this is a big deal for a Japanese destroyer captain. Oh, hold on a second. I believe we could be about to see the first kill of the match. Oh yes indeed we are. Well, that was nice. And a very useful kill for him to have as well. That was the Z46, or, you know, if you're American, the Z46. Very dangerous opponent when you're in this thing, because despite the surprisingly not bad performance characteristics of the Yugumo's guns, it is very definitely not a gunboat destroyer. The guns are not bad. They're not good. Because while the turrets do rotate faster than its predecessor, the Kagero, they still take nearly 23 seconds to rotate 180 degrees. They're still very much Japanese gun turrets, even if the guns housed in those turrets perform in a distinctly un-Japanese way. And this is why, despite appearances, I do say that this is not a gunboat destroyer. It only has a top speed of 35.5 knots, and that very slow turret rotation means that if you are getting into a gunfight with a proper gunboat destroyer, something American, Soviet or German for example, and you're taking evasive action to avoid their shots, you're not going to be able to bring the guns to bear on your pursuer, and with a top speed of 35.5 knots, you're almost certainly going to be too slow to get away from them. At least that's the theory. That's what looking at the stats of the ship would appear to dictate, but Ark Yagami here doesn't appear to have received that particular memo. He's already nailed one of the enemy gunboat destroyers. There are still 4 destroyers remaining on the enemy team. But sinking the Z46 was blind luck. He was actually aiming his torpedoes at the Anago, off in the distance behind him, and his torpedoes were in the water before the Z46 was even spotted. The Z46 just kind of blundered around the side of the island and sailed right into them. Didn't see them until it was far too late to do anything about it. And I'm sure that Ark Yagami isn't complaining about that spot of luck. In fact, he was getting quite cocky about it in chat earlier. And I don't really mind people being cocky in chat, providing they've got the skills to back it up. If you're going to talk the talk, you better be damn sure you can walk the walk as well. What he's done here is he's deliberately run aground so he doesn't sail around the front of the island up there and run into any torpedoes fired by the Shimakaze. It's also momentarily, because the Shimakaze is the one who is spotting him, allowed him to get his torpedoes away against that lion over there undetected. He's detected now, of course, but the lion isn't even pointing his guns at him. The lion is busy shooting up somebody else and taking fire from somebody else. He lets rip with his guns because, hey, they're pointing in that direction and you're spotted anyway. But it's the torpedoes, 1, 2, 3 of them, and a devastating strike, which takes out the lion, puts him on 72,500 damage done, and gives him his second kill. Now, Shimakaze behind him, in a smokescreen now, so not spotting him anymore, but there are 2 other smokescreens up ahead, one to the left, one to the right. Now, there is a friendly Benson over there to the right, so it's possible that that's his smokescreen, but it would be unwise to just assume that it is. So, we definitely have at least 2, possibly 3, maybe as many as 4 enemy destroyers in very, very close proximity. That's a lot of enemy destroyers. Even a Gearing or a Khabarovsk captain would think twice before putting themselves up against those kind of odds. But a Yugumo? We know for a fact that an enemy destroyer was around here somewhere, around Charlie. There was a smokescreen over here and it didn't come from any of the ships on his team. Enemy Fletcher has just popped up. That probably wasn't his smokescreen. There's likely to be another enemy destroyer off in that direction somewhere. So Arkyagami is voluntarily making himself the filling in an enemy high-tier gunboat destroyer sandwich right now. It's very brave of him. I mean, I'm not sure I would have done this. But, well, you know, if it's stupid but it works. Then again, it's not that stupid. This ship does have the lowest surface detection range of any of the Tier 9 destroyers. Its base detection range is just a fraction over 7 kilometers, and Arkyagami's managed to get that down to 5.5 kilometers. That's phenomenally good. If any of those enemy destroyers are getting curious as to exactly who it is who's capturing Charlie and fancy taking a mosey on over in order to investigate, he's almost certainly going to see them coming first. Maybe not the Shimakaze. Well, the Shimakaze's base detection range is, I think, 7.5-ish kilometers. So he does have a better surface detection range than a fully trained and upgraded Shimakaze. But he's only going to get a fraction of a second's warning if the Shimakaze is heading over here to try to flush him out. The gun handling characteristics on the Shimakaze are virtually identical to that of the Yugumo, so a gunfight with a Shimakaze would actually be quite a fair fight. Oh look! He's gotten himself into a gunfight with the enemy Shimakaze. Shimakaze swings to try to angle for a torpedo shot, but does not fire his torpedoes. There were no puffs of compressed air coming from those torpedo tubes to indicate a torpedo launch, and the reason why? Well, if you notice the island looming up in front of Arkyagami there, any torpedoes fired at an angle to intersect with his course would just run straight into that island. So neither of them were able to get their torpedoes away in a direct attack on each other, but Arkyagami started that fight with about 6,000 to 7,000 more health than the Shimakaze did, so he's dead. That's his second destroyer kill, his third kill overall, and Arkyagami is still sailing, with most of his health intact. Running into the island again, of course, I suspect may have been deliberate, because it's possible that that Shimakaze might have dumped his torpedoes around the other side of the island, hoping to catch him with them as he cleared around it. Oh look, yet another enemy destroyer. The HSF Arakaze can be a very difficult opponent to fight, because you never know exactly what it is you're fighting until they start shooting at you. That ship can have a choice of 3 different types of gun depending on the hull upgrade that you've fitted. It can have the Akazuki's guns, it can have American guns, or it can have your standard Japanese 127mm. This guy does actually have the Akazuki's 100mm guns. You can tell straight away by the rate of fire. Not that it's going to help him much, because he's just eaten a torpedo, and with 485 health remaining, I don't care how quickly your 100mm guns fire, you're going down. 3 enemy destroyers sunk. His engine's out, although he's got last stand, so he's able to keep moving, and he does have his damage control available, but he's still spotted. Oh, that would be why. Player 4 has just entered the match. Yet another Harikaze, this one on full health. Also armed with the Akazuki's twin 100mm turrets. 4 turrets in total, 8 guns. Now he got lucky against the Z46. He was able to use terrain to his advantage against a lower health Shimakaze, and the first Harikaze managed to sail straight into one of his torpedoes and hand Arkyagami the advantage right at the start of the fight. No such luck this time. That guy's on full health. He was able to unload several broadsides from his 8 100mm guns into Arkyagami before he could even bring his turrets around to fire back at him. Now might be a good time to pop your smoke screen and hide. You haven't used it yet. Well, he hasn't used it because he doesn't have one. He's got the torpedo reload booster instead. His engine and his steering have been knocked out, and he's on fire again in 2 separate locations, but his damage control is about to come off cooldown. With the last stand skill, he's able to keep moving and steering a little, and he's also popped his engine boost to get this island between himself and that Harikaze, while also using his torpedo reload booster to get 4 salvos of torpedoes in the water against him. His damage control's back up, he's used it to extinguish the last fire, restore power and steering, and it turns out that battleships aren't the only things that like to sail in straight lines when there are torpedoes about. Well, to be completely fair, Jingles, Arkyagami was sailing in a straight line as well. Yeah, but he was sailing in a straight line with an island between him and any torpedoes that the Harikaze might have fired. That's perfectly acceptable. Can't say the same about the Harikaze. So, let's just recap. He's capped Charlie, although the enemy team were impertinent enough to cap it right back off him. He's in the process of capping Bravo. He sunk 5 enemy ships, got the Kraken unleashed. One of them was a tier 9 battleship, and the other 4 were enemy destroyers. There's only 1 enemy destroyer remaining, that's the Fletcher. The Fletcher is very definitely a gunboat, although it does have some very useful torpedoes as well. Coincidentally, he sank the enemy torpedo destroyer with his guns, and he nailed the enemy gunboat destroyers with his torpedoes, so at least he's consistent. So you've done well. You've nailed 4 of the 5 enemy destroyers, and you've done it in a ship that you wouldn't really expect to be using for hunting destroyers, but you probably don't want to be getting into a gunfight with a Fletcher. Not when you only have 5,500 health remaining. Yeah, he's probably over in that direction. That's where he was last spotted, and somebody capped Charlie, and it certainly wasn't the Shimakaze or either of the Harakazes. Hello? Oh, there he is. Yep. Why are you heading in that direction, Arkyagami? Oh wait, you're setting up for a torpedo attack. Well, that makes sense. You do have a 5.5 kilometer surface detection range. You may as well use it. Why are you still heading in that direction? Don't you know it's a Fletcher? You saw how much health he's got. You can't possibly win a gunfight with a Fletcher. Well, apparently that's another memo that Arkyagami doesn't appear to have been in possession of. Okay, he's got plenty of backup. Everybody wants to be the one to kill this Fletcher, and the Fletcher is instead shooting at the Benson, not Arkyagami's Yugumo. And he's managed to kill the Benson, but he took so much damage doing it that Arkyagami is going to win a gunfight with a Fletcher for his 6th kill. 5 of them enemy destroyers, 4 of them gunboat destroyers, and all of them at gunfighting range. And if that's not worth a shout out on YouTube, then quite frankly I really don't know what is anymore. So, Arkyagami, scourge of destroyers in the Japanese tier 9 torpedo boat, the Yugumo. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.